So, that just happened. As a thank you to all of you wonderful people out there, I decided to add some more art to the free art pack that I have released, with the intention to specifically focus on enemies and things like that. But before we get into the video, my name is Helper Wesley, I've made these games, and I make weekly devlogs. I started by trying to make a will-o'-the-wisp kind of enemy, and this was largely because I knew that tackling limbs and things would get real complicated real fast. So I started with this, but I did eventually throw that out because I never keep the first draft of the things that I make. And then I gracefully sidestepped the issue of having to animate things and moved along to chains and spikes and things that could hurt you. Things that probably you could rig up to move in your own game, but I'm not putting any animations in myself. Like a spike ball and some chain pieces. I did go back though after I made the chain pieces and reshaded them because, as well as the spike ball, but I reshaded them because the other things that have metal on them are really well shaded. And so these things with their outline just kind of didn't seem to match the world that was being created. And after doing that, I then created this like guillotine type thing. I wasn't sure where I was going with it, but it did turn out pretty okay. I'm not sure how people would use it in their games, but after adding the little wooden piece on the back of the blade, it looks pretty cool, and I feel like I could make an entire set of tools and weapons just with this like wood on metal look. Or if somebody wanted to, they could just do it themselves, because I did put the color palette in the art pack itself, so if you needed to like tweak things, you could just grab the colors from there. After I finished up with the chains, I made a second attempt at making a character, or an enemy. And this time I went ahead with a mask, and that was to cover up basically any kind of animation. The mask itself will move up and down, and basically you'll get just this like trail of ectoplasm, I guess, coming off of it that would bounce and stretch according to the way it's moving. This is totally cheating, but as long as the end result looks okay, I think we're cool. The art police aren't going to come get me. Speaking of cool, the mask actually came out pretty good. I gave it this animation where it idles for a while and then turns and flies sideways. And so that could probably be used for like an idle animation, kind of wandering or patrolling an area. Or it could be used so that when the player gets within range of the enemy, it turns and goes after them. And then I created this death animation where the mask kind of flumps to the ground and spews up ectoplasm, I guess? I then figured now that there's an enemy, I can focus a little bit on decorations and things. And since this is an outdoor scene, I created some rocks. Or at least I tried to create rocks. And then I tried some more. And then I tried some more. And then I tried some more. Until I got something that kind of sort of works. And I don't know if this is just rocks in general, but like, it wasn't until I was done and I stepped back that I looked at it and was like, oh, yeah, okay, this kind of works. Whereas the whole time I was doing it, I thought it was terrible. But I feel like where rocks don't have a standard look, they're supposed to be unique and haphazard. I think that in itself means that whenever you're doing them, you kind of gotta hope that they come out okay. And so after I made the big rock, I made a tiny rock. And between those two, hopefully they can make their maps look nice. Ideally, this sort of art pack could be used to make something approaching the sort of complexity and look of like Kingdom. I definitely had a moment where I thought about making some more enemies and things to kind of give you more tools to make something a little closer to Kingdom. And maybe I will in the future. I've actually been thinking about making a game like Kingdom for a game jam if it ever comes up as a reasonable thing I could use the theme for. And speaking of game jams, I will be joining the Vim Jam in September. I'll put the link down below, And if you join the Vim Jam, and especially if you use this art pack, send me a message and let me know. Maybe I'll get a chance to play your game. Anyhow, back to the reason we're here. The larger Mega Drive color palette that I'm using had a lot of colors in it, and I think that led to a little bit of choice paralysis, and so I ran off and added some things to the Ice Cave. Its color palette, Cold War 8, only has 8 colors, plus black because I added that in myself. So it's a little more restrictive, but also, by limiting your choices, it actually increases the likelihood that you'll make something. So I set off to make some dooflickies and thingamejiggs, and a couple of thingamabobs to go along with it. Basically just things that people can use to sort of fill up the level with details. And for the enemy in this level, I tried to make this like spy drone thing, and it just didn't really work out. Because like I said, I tend to throw out the first thing I make, so that got tossed out. And while I was in the middle of doing this, our Discord had some trouble and somebody had to get banned, which is kind of when my ADHD kicked in. A lot of Discords have this like ban hammer icon, and we don't, so I set out to make one for us specifically. And I started by using the Cold War 8 color palette because that's what I had open at the time. And I really liked it, actually. I think it looks really nice, and the little shadow from the cloth hanging from the hammer, I think that looks really nice. But somebody said it kind of looked like a paint roller, and I couldn't get that out of my head. So I tried a couple different versions with color palette swaps and things like that. But while I was doing that, somebody piped up and said, why not make it a marshmallow on a stick? Because we're the fireside. And like many times before I realized what I was doing, this was made. If I was more talented, I would have loved to make it like a flaming marshmallow, because a flaming marshmallow hammer would have been really cool to look at. But for now, I just animated the letters to like light up, and yeah, maybe I got a little bit too into the fact that we banned people from the Discord, but like, it happens, so you may as well have fun with it. Are any of you old enough to remember the movie or have weirdly seen the movie Screamers? It's a horror movie, so if that's not your jam, I understand. But I saw that movie when I was probably too young to watch it, and so I have it burned into my memory. And so I wanted to make some kind of enemy that used a saw blade and would move along the ground to chase after you. So I started with the Sawblade. Initially I tried to use like transparent layers of its earlier rotations to kind of fake that it's spinning, but I didn't like how that turned out. And so I drew a circle, and with 2 alternating frames, I could make it look like it's spinning. And so there's a rev up and a rev down kind of set of animations. Then while I was trying to make the base that the blade was going to sit on, I made this and realized it looked a lot like 2 legs or 2 arms kind of held in front of a face. You don't see it? Okay, well, it does, to me. So I set off with that and worked slowly and meticulously, and for longer than I've worked on, I think, any animation really, to create what you see in front of you now. I'm not sure how people are going to want to actually use these art packs, so a saw blade and this enemy really could be used for a lot of different things, and that was kind of the point, to make things that could be used in multiple ways. And then I moved back to the grassy, hilly art pack. I added a couple things like coins and diddly-doos and watchmajiggets, but what I wanted mostly was to get this like brickwork castle kind of thing going on, because in the ice pack you can go in and out from underground to the surface. So following the same pattern as all the other tile sets I've made, I start with the base, and then once I'm finished the base, I break that up to get the corners, and then the sides, and the top is basically the same as the bottom, but with some alterations made to make it darker. And ta-da! I had a little bit of trouble with the background, big surprise. I don't know what it is about backgrounds, but for some reason, my brain just doesn't want to do them. And so I basically made 2 backgrounds and put them both in the art pack. And just like the big backgrounds that are there, I left them in so that you can pick whichever one you like. 1,000 people. 1,000 people subscribe to the channel. That is nuts. I remember trying to imagine 200 people and I couldn't picture 200 people looking at me trying to like see my homework. 1,000 people? I have no words. Thank you so much. I created this channel almost a year ago now, specifically so that I could advertise my games, but these Friday videos have kind of taken on a life of their own, and I've begun to do them just because I enjoy doing them, not because I want people to play my games. Even though I totally want you to play my games. Play my games. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe click on that subscribe button. And if you want to talk to me personally, the link to our Discord is down below. It's called the Game Dev Fireside, and it's a pretty chill place to hang out and talk game dev. And if you decide to click on that link, then I'll see you there.